All right, everybody, I am ready for the second part of Chapter 4. Connor's helping today. He just wants to sit in my lap. He's being needy. I need some coffee. Okay, here we go. Chapter 4, and we're starting on page 51, because this is when he gave Harry the letter. And who is he? He's Hagrid. Remember, he was our new character. He was this bigger-than-life guy with a big shaggy hair and beard and this marvelous coat with all these pockets. Okay, and it's Harry's birthday. Okay, so he pulled out the letter and he read, Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. Order of Merlin First Class, Grand Sorcerer, Chief Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confederation of Wizards. Ooh, that's a fancy title. New character. The headmaster means the same thing as the principal. So like Miss Shue is our principal. Albus Dumbledore is the principal of this school called Hogwarts. Here's what the letter said. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you've been accepted at the Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all the necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Okay, so now we know who those two people were in the first chapter. We had Albus Dumbledore. He's the one who was going down Privet Drive with the clicker outer that was making all the lights go out. He is the principal of this really cool school. And then Minerva McGonagall must be Professor McGonagall. And she was that cat that kept like looking at the sign and reading the map and sat there all day. So we know these two characters, and we know that they are invested in Harry. Why would they have been there trying to help him when he was a baby? Okay? But they're also attached to this school. We've got Professor McGonagall, the headmistress. So she's kind of like the vice principal, okay? And then we have Albus Dumbledore, who is the headmaster. All right. Questions exploded inside Harry's head like fireworks, and he couldn't decide which to ask first. After a few minutes, he stammered, What does it mean they await my owl? Gollopin Gorgons. That reminds me, said Hagrid, clapping a hand to his forehead with enough force to knock over a cart horse. And from yet another pocket inside his overcoat, he pulled out an owl. A real, live, rather ruffled-looking owl, a long quill, and a roll of parchment. Now, a quill is like when you write with a big feather, okay? Not a pen, called a quill. With his tongue between his teeth, he scribbled a note that Harry could read upside down. Dear Professor Dumbledore, given Harry his letter, taking him to buy his things tomorrow. Weather's horrible. Hope you're well. Hagrid. Hagrid rolled up the note, gave it to the owl, which clamped it in its beak, went to the door, and then threw the owl out into the storm. Then he came back and sat down as though this was as normal as talking on the telephone. Harry realized his mouth was open and closed it quickly. Where was I? But at that moment, Uncle Vernon, still ashen-faced but looking very angry, moved into the firelight. He's not going, he said. Hagrid grunted. I'd like to see a great muggle like you stop him, he said. A what? Said Harry, interested. A muggle, said Hagrid. It's what we call non-magic folks like them. I think he means the Dursleys. And it's bad luck if you grew up in a family. Oh, I'm sorry. And it's your bad luck. You grew up in a family of the biggest muggles I ever laid eyes on. We swore when we took him in that we'd put a stop to that rubbish, said Uncle Vernon. We swore we'd stamp it out of him. Wizard indeed. You knew? Said Harry. You knew I'm a wizard? No, shrieked Aunt Petunia suddenly. Connor doesn't like my voices. No, of course we knew. How could you not be, my dratted sister being what she was? Oh, she got a letter just like that one and disappeared off to that school and came home every vacation with her pockets full of frog spawn, turning teacups into rats. I was the only one that saw her for what she was, a freak. But for my mother and father, oh no, it was Lily this and Lily that. They were so proud of having a witch in the family. She stopped to draw a breath and then went ranting on. It seemed like she'd been wanting to say all of this for years. Then she met that Potter at school and they left and got married and had you. And of course, I knew you'd be just the same, just as strange, just as abnormal. And then, if you please, she went and got herself blown up and we got landed with you. Harry had gone very white. As soon as he found his voice, he said, "Blown up? You told me they died in a car crash." "Car crash?" roared Hagrid, jumping up so angrily that the Dursleys scuttled back into their corner. How could a car crash kill Lily and James Potter? It's an outrage. It's a scandal. Harry Potter not knowing his own story when every kid in the world knows his name. "But why? What happened?" asked Harry urgently. The anger faded from Hagrid's face, and suddenly he looked anxious. Good synonym for worried there. She didn't say worried, she said anxious, using her big words. "I never expected this," he said in a low, worried voice. "I had no idea. When Dumbledore told me there might be trouble getting hold of you, how much you didn't know? Oh, Harry, I don't know if I'm the right person to tell you, but somebody's gotta. You can't go off to Hogwarts not knowing." He threw a very dirty look at the Dursleys. I think he gave them the Miss Bjornaby teacher look, the one where I can and you guys straighten up and do the right thing. I think that's kind of the look that Hagrid just gave the Dursleys, but a little bit meaner, because he's kind of intimidating. "Well, it's best you know as much as I can tell you, mind. And I can't tell you everything. It's a great mystery, parts of it." He sat down and stared into the fire for a few seconds and then said, "It begins, I suppose, with a person called, oh, but it's incredible you don't know his name. Everyone in our world knows." "Who?" "Well, I don't like saying a name if I can help it. No one does." "Why not?" "Gulping gargoyles, Harry. People are still scared. Blimey, this is difficult. See, there was this wizard who went bad. As bad as you can go. Worse than worse. His name was..." Hagrid gulped. But no words came out. "Could you just write it down?" Harry suggested. "Nah, can't spell it. All right. Voldemort." Hagrid shuddered. "Don't make me say it again. Anyway, this wizard, about 20 years ago, he started looking for some followers. Got him, too. Some were afraid. Some just wanted a bit of power, because he was getting himself some power, all right. Dark days, Harry. Didn't know who to trust. Didn't dare get friendly with strange witches or wizards. Terrible things happened. He was taken over. Of course, some stood up to him, and he killed them. Horribly. One of the only safe places left was Hogwarts. Reckon Dumbledore's the only one you know who was afraid of. Didn't dare try taking over the school. Not then, anyway. Now, your mom and dad were as good a witch and wizard as I ever knew. Head boy and head girl at Hogwarts in their day. Suppose the mystery is why you know who never tried to get them on his side before. Probably knew they were too close to Dumbledore to want anything to do with the dark side. Maybe he thought he could persuade them. Maybe he just wanted them out of the way. All anyone knows is that he turned up in the village where you were living on Halloween 10 years ago. You were just a year old. He came to your house and Hagrid suddenly pulled out a very dirty spotted handkerchief and blew his nose, which sounded like a foghorn. "Sorry," he said, "but it's that sad. Knew your mom and dad, and nicer people you couldn't find. Anyway, you know who killed him. And then, and this is the real mystery of the thing, he tried to kill you too." wanted to make a clean job of it, I suppose, or maybe he just liked the killing by then. But he couldn't do it. Never wondered how you got that mark on your forehead? That was no ordinary cut. That's what you get when a powerful evil curse touches you. Mr. Bjornaby just got here and he's talking. I have. It's very nice outside, Mr. Bjornaby.
The back of your truck's open.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Sorry we were interrupted at this very pivotal moment. Okay. I've got to start back at the beginning of this paragraph. You know who killed him. And then this is the real mystery of the thing, he tried to kill you too. Wanted to make a clean job of it, I suppose, or maybe he just liked killing by then, but he couldn't do it. Never wondered how you got that mark on your forehead? That's no ordinary cut. That's what you get when a powerful evil curse touches you. Took care of your mom and dad, and your house even, but it didn't work on you, and that's why you're famous, Harry. No one ever lived after he decided to kill them. No one except you. And he killed some of the best witches and wizards of the age. The McKinnons, the Bones, the Pruitts, and you were only a baby, and you lived. Something very painful was going on in Hagrid's mind. As Hagrid's story came to a close, he again saw the blinding flash of green light more clearly than he had ever remembered it before, and he remembered something else. For the first time in his life, a high, cold, cruel laugh. Hagrid was watching him sadly. Took you from the ruined house myself on Dumbledore's orders, brought you to this lot. Load of old tosh, said Uncle Vernon. Harry jumped. He'd almost forgotten that the Dursleys were there. Uncle Vernon certainly seemed to have gotten back his courage. He was glaring at Hagrid, and his fists were clenched. Now, you listen here, boy, he snarled. I accept there's something strange about you, probably nothing a good beating wouldn't have cured. As for all this about your parents, well, they were weirdos. No denying it, and the world's better off without them, in my opinion. They got what they got for getting all mixed up with those wizarding types. Just what I expected. Always knew they'd come to a sticky end. But at that moment, Hagrid leapt from the sofa and drew a battered pink umbrella from deep inside his coat. Pointing this at Uncle Vernon like a sword, he said, I'm warning you, Dursley. I'm warning you one more word. In danger of being speared by the end of the umbrella by a bearded giant, Uncle Vernon's courage failed again, and he flattened himself against the wall and went silent. That's better, said Hagrid, breathing heavily and sitting back down on the sofa, which this time sagged right down to the floor. Harry, meanwhile, still had questions to ask, hundreds of them. But what happened to you know who? Good question, Harry. Disappeared. Vanished. Same night he tried to kill you. Makes you even more famous. That's the biggest mystery, see? He was getting more and more powerful. Why'd he go? Some say he died. Codswallop, in my opinion. I don't know if he had enough human left in him to die. Some say he's still out there biding his time, but I don't believe it. People who was on his side came back to ours. Some of them came out of kind of trances. Don't reckon they could have done that if he was coming back. Most of us reckon he's still out there somewhere but just lost his powers. Too weak to carry on. 'Cause something about you finished him, Harry. There was something going on that night he had not counted on. I don't know what it was, no one does, but something about you stumped him all right. Hagrid looked at Harry with a warmth and respect blazing in his eyes, but Harry, instead of feeling pleased and proud, felt quite sure there had been some horrible mistake. A wizard? Him? How could he possibly be? He'd spent his life being clouded by Dudley and bullied by Aunt Petunia and Uncle Vernon. If he was really a wizard, why hadn't they been turned into warty toads every time they tried to lock him in his cupboard? If he'd once defeated the greatest sorcerer in the world, how come Dudley had always been able to kick him around like a football? Hagrid, he said quietly, I think you've made a mistake. I don't think I can be a wizard. To his surprise, Hagrid chuckled. Not a wizard, huh? Never made things happen when you were scared or angry? Harry looked into the fire. Now that he came to think about it, every odd thing that had ever made his aunt and uncle furious with him had happened when he, Harry, had been angry or upset, chased by Dudley's gang. He had somehow found himself out of their reach. Dreading going to school with that ridiculous haircut, he'd managed to make his hair grow back, and the very last time Dudley hit him, hadn't he got his revenge without even realizing he was doing it? Hadn't he set Hadn't he set a boa constrictor on him? Harry looked back at Hagrid, smiling, and saw that Hagrid was absolutely beaming. "See," said Hagrid, "Harry Potter? Not a wizard. You wait. You'll be right famous at Hogwarts." But Uncle Vernon wasn't going to give in without a fight. "Haven't I told you he's not going?" he hissed. "He's going to Stonewall High, and he'll be grateful for it. I've read those letters, and he needs all sort of rubbish spell books and wands, and if he wants to go, a great muggle like you won't stop him," growled Hagrid. "Stop Lily and James Potter's son from going to Hogwarts. You're mad." Another word for crazy. "His name's been down since he was born. He's off at the finest school of witchcraft and wizardry in the world. 7 years there, and he won't know himself. He'll be with youngsters of his own sort for a change. And he'll be under the greatest headmaster Hogwarts ever had, Albus Dumbledore." "I'm not paying for him to go to some crackpot old fool to teach him magic tricks," yelled Uncle Vernon. You don't like that, do you? But he had finally gone too far. Hagrid seized his umbrella and whirled it around his head. "Never!" he thundered. "Insult Albus Dumbledore in front of me!" He brought the umbrella swishing down through the air and pointed it at Dudley. There was a flash of violent light, a sound like a firecracker, pow, a sharp squeal, and the next second Dudley was dancing on the spot with his hands clasped over his fat bottom, howling in pain. When he turned his back on them, Harry saw a curly pig's tail poking through a hole in his trousers. Uncle Vernon roared, pulling Aunt Petunia and Dudley into the other room. He cast one last terrified look at Hagrid and slammed the door behind him. Hagrid looked down at his umbrella and stroked his beard. "Shouldn't have lost my temper," he said ruefully, "but it didn't work. Meant to turn him into a pig, but I suppose he was so much like a pig anyway there wasn't much left to do." He cast a hot sideways look at Harry under his bushy eyebrows. "Be grateful if you didn't mention to that anybody at Hogwarts," he said. I'm not supposed to do magic, strictly speaking. I was allowed to do a bit to follow you and to get your letters to you and stuff, but one of the reasons I was so keen to take on the job." "Why aren't you supposed to do magic?" asked Harry. "Oh, well, I was at Hogwarts myself, but I got expelled, to tell you the truth. In my 3rd year, they snapped my wand in half and everything. But Dumbledore let me stay on as a gamekeeper. Great man, Dumbledore." "Why were you expelled?" "It's getting late and we have lots to do tomorrow," said Hagrid loudly. "Gotta get up to town, get your books and all." He took off his thick black coat and threw it to Harry. "You can sleep under that," he said. "Don't mind if it wriggles a bit. I think it's still got a couple dormice in one of the pockets." And that is the end of chapter 4. Wow, we learned so much stuff today. I'm not even going to talk to you about it, really. There's so much to digest. Oh my goodness, Harry is a wizard. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Petunia have been lying to him all this time. Hagrid had to tell him. Harry's like, "No way, dude, no way. They've been bullying me forever, and I couldn't do anything special." But then when he thought about it, maybe he can. So tomorrow, I'm making a prediction here, he's probably going to read the rest of the letter and maybe go with Hagrid somewhere. Because Hagrid said in his letter he was going to take him to get his stuff. So we shall see.